And we're live. All right, let's get started, guys. Welcome to an episode of Southern Scrap Nation. It's a podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Jonas, as always. And today we're live on YouTube. So, um, once you guys listen to this podcast and you guys come back, you guys will now know we are going to be live from here on out. So, just so we can get started, we had UFC 227 this past weekend, and we're going to get into the analysis and breakdown of all that went on there, and then we'll also get into what happened in the week of MMA. Right? We had the UFC presser, big deal. We had a bunch of fights get announced. We had the biggest fight in MMA get announced, as well as some Diaz drama, as always. So that's kind of fun. And then if you're not even a fan of Bellator, well, they also announced a Grand Prix that well, it's been announced, but the at least the matchups have been solidified and are now lined up. So we'll get into all that and definitely more. But let's get started. So once again, if you haven't heard of us before, we're Southern Scrap Nation. I'm your host, Daniel. You can find us on YouTube, obviously, SoundCloud, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, uh, and all the other social platforms. And you can subscribe to the podcast as well on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, like I said before. All right, let's get started, guys. So, everyone, I hope you had a good weekend. Let's get into some of the fight announcements that happened over the presser, right? They're not necessarily announcements, more, if you will, just the lineups and how everyone looked. And I'm going to go over what I specifically thought was interesting to me. No one really was speaking, or not, no one was really talking shit the way that we're used to. However, watching Darren Till and Tyron Woodley walk up to each other, that's crazy, right? Everyone saw Darren Till and Tyron Woodley. Darren Till posted the photo of them standing next to each other, and damn, did they look in like two different weight classes. I'm excited for the matchup, as well as the Volkan Ozdemir versus Anthony Smith matchup. That also was surprising, as we know Anthony Smith was a 185er, and when he stood next to Volkan, literally like an inch taller, seemed not necessarily a bigger man, but it seemed like they were fighting in the same weight class, not like an 85er moving up to 205. Also, we had Justin Gaethje versus James Vick. That's a fight card coming up not this weekend, not next weekend, but the end of the month, the 25th of August. And what else? We had Valentina Shevchenko versus Nico Montoya for the women's flyweight belt. That will be on the same card as Darren Till versus Tyron Woodley as the co-main event. That's an exciting fight if you're into Valentina just taking that belt. I'm excited to watch her. I'm not trying to, take anything away from Nico, but it's just two different levels, man. It's just two different levels. But let's see what else. Who else do we have up there before we get into the Diaz and the Poirier issue? I'm not going to go too much into that. Just, as a fan, Diaz decide, want to give him his due. Oh, the Israel Adesanya versus Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson, super fired up for that fight. Israel sitting there. I will say, out of the whole presser, that one comment, "You look like a senior citizen," that had me dying. Derek Brunson got him with that one. That was pretty funny. I will say that. Israel, for those that didn't see it, he was wearing suspenders, right? So, and he's a skinny dude, and that's what Derek was going at. He was the fact that Israel's a skinny 185er, kinda, and he was just called him a senior citizen. I thought it was hilarious. There was this one, jab that actually I favored. All right, so let's see what else we got. And then the Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier matchup. So Nate Diaz and obviously we'll get into the next one. I'm just going over the people that were at the presser. So Nate Diaz and Dustin Poirier is a matchup that I think is fucking great. It's a great matchup. Both guys aren't wrestlers, so there's at no point are these guys gonna just go for the takedown to get out of boxing or striking with each other. The issue with this matchup is, one, Nate Diaz has been out for a while, but two, there's a technique that everyone uses against him, and it kind of sways the it's the one time that leg kicks, and we'll go into the whole debate about leg kicks later. It's the one time that leg kicking judges do score in favor of fighters, right? So when you watch Nate Diaz fight anybody, he's susceptible. Wow, he's susceptible to those leg kicks, just like in the Conor Diaz 2 fight, in the Rafael dos Anjos fight, right? He's very heavy on that front foot because of the boxing, whereas Dustin Poirier is an MMA striker. He's not a boxer. As much as he does use his hands, not much of a head kicker, if you will, but he throws his kicks. He fights southpaw. It's an interesting fight. Nate is a little bit taller of the opponent, so he can use that reach. But when it comes to jiu-jitsu, both these guys are jiu-jitsu, MMA jiu-jitsu class guys off their back. They go for submissions quite often and always. And Nate's favorite statement is he likes to turn strikers into wrestlers. So if this was a boxing match, and a boxing and jiu-jitsu match, very favored towards Nate in this, even with the layoff. But with the layoff, and then the fact that Dustin's not a one-dimensional striker. He's an everything striker. Especially we've been seeing it in his last couple fights. It's going to be a tough fight for Nate. It's going to be a good fight. It's just going to be a tough one. And in that, no, not in that fight. Hold on. Oh, also Jimmy Manuwa versus Glover Teixeira has also been announced. If you guys don't know, Glover Teixeira versus Jimmy Manuwa is probably going to be an uppercut fest for Jimmy, unless Glover changes his strategy, goes for the takedown. But man, a lot of uppercuts. All right, so give me 1 second. All righty. So on the UFC 2, no, then it's not that card. All right, I was just trying to find recently. Derek Lewis versus Volkov was also announced. Now Volkov being Alexander Volkov, the guy that pieced up Verdum in his last fight. Really impressive. Why am I missing this? All right. That's not that one. Not that. This one. What about this one? 230. Huh. All right. So I guess, there it is. UFC 230. Okay, cool. Madison Square Garden card. Yeah, so Nate Diaz, this is the middleweight, essentially, Grand Prix that the UFC is putting on. And it's a good card. It's definitely a good card so far. The main event's still yet to be announced. I wonder who it's going to be. That's kind of crazy that's yet to be announced. But other than that, those have been the cards and main events that have been announced. Obviously, in Moscow, we have Alexander Oleinik versus Mark Hunt coming up as well. So good cards for the end of the year, especially this Denver one, where Frankie Edgar versus Korean Zombie is going to headline it. And then you have Mike Perry versus Donald Cerrone. Joseph Benavidez versus Ray Borg was just announced. Everything towards the end of the year is just starting to look super, super nice, especially if you're a huge MMA fan, or if you're an MMA fan right now. All right. Let's keep going. All right. No. I want to check out this Dallas card. I want to see if there's any other fight that I can get you guys hyped for. Andrade just fighting Kolokovic. Oh, right. Jimmy Rivera's back to fight John Dodson. That would be a good fight. It's a pretty good card. I like how Alexander I've got this buzzing in my ear. I'm gonna take these off. I like how Yair Rodriguez is coming back for UFC 228 in Dallas, because recently, or his last fight was in Dallas as well against Frankie Edgar, and did not do so well. He's coming back to fight Zabit Magomed Shapirov. You know, that monster of a competitor. All right. So a lot of matchups, a lot of fight announcements, a lot of things that happened this past weekend. So to get into a little bit of the drama is this. The greatest, or no, I don't know about the greatest, but the biggest fight in all of UFC history was announced, and that fight is going to be at UFC 229. Finally, in October, Conor McGregor is making his great return to the octagon against Khabib Nurmagomedov for the lightweight championship. As we all suspected, it's going to be a great fight. I think everyone's already making their bets and already doing their, talking about it. The closer we get to it, I'll do more. But man, Khabib versus Conor, what we always wanted. You can go back and there's a video that I saw the other day that's actually kind of cool. Conor was talking about he was going to go fight Floyd. I think this was back in 2015, and that he would go up to the lightweight division. And they're like, "Who do you think is going to have the belt when you go up there to get the championship?" And he's like, "I don't know. I think that Russian Khabib's going to have it." And it's talking about taking it away from him. I don't know. Talk about Mystic Mac all you want. He not necessarily predicts things, but he's he's a really intelligent guy. Does a lot of thinking. He makes sure that, whoa, all the buzzing in my ear stopped. I can think clearly now. The fuck? That's crazy. All right. So, oh, that's cool. Yeah. So anyway, he went off to box. Floyd comes back. He's talking about all this. At the same time, Khabib's over here just waiting. The dolly gets thrown. They're going to play that footage over and over and over again to get you to get more hyped and more involved or more invested into it. And I mean, just the act that they weren't at the presser, because the idea that they can't even be in the same room together, the idea that they can't even, whatever, that there's so much animosity is just building this rivalry to the point where, and they haven't even engaged in, like, besides backstage stuff, besides backstage face-offs that they've created their own way, and besides throwing a dolly at a bus and yelling for Khabib, they've never faced off against each other. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the fact that I wish Nate was on the same card. That would have been great. Dana was talking about getting Tony on that card, but we'll see, because Tony still is a little bit injured, or he's still coming off that injury, from that surgery that he had on his knee, the LCL. So I'm personally excited for the card. I wonder what else is going to be on UFC 229. I just kind of feel they're not doing a world tour for it. I think they learned from the past. I try to think. The word for it, I guess, is I'm ecstatic because of the matchup. That's it. I don't feel the wave of it. I felt that, oh my God, it got announced as a presser. Oh my God. But I haven't felt the Conor shit talking. I haven't felt the, oh my God, he's here, he's ready. I haven't felt this start of it. I felt that they announced it and we're like, yeah. But I've yet to feel the full weight of a press conference, the full weight of the media that Conor does. And I don't think he's going to be doing as much. It might be in his contract. He might be just focusing on fighting, which, hey, I don't take away from. And, I think he should train more. Khabib's a fucking monster. It's a terrible matchup for Conor. But at the same time, it just kind of feels lackluster right now. Obviously, the announcement was great, but he wasn't even there. Khabib wasn't even there, so you don't get any of that sound bites, something to look forward to, something to show your friends. You just get that poster, which is fine. I mean, cool. But I want to see them stand next to each other. I want to see them size each other up. I want to see how they react. But either way, at the end of the day, it's gonna be a good fight. So hope everyone else is excited as much as I am. Much as I am. All right. What else? Oh, excuse me. Nate Diaz walks out as soon as that fight was announced on that day. He is not happy. He feels the UFC has mistreated him. And not that I don't disagree with him, but I think they mistreat a lot of people. He's just very vocal about it. And honestly, without it, I mean, we wouldn't be talking about it. And that was the big thing, was as much as Conor Khabib was, and this goes back to what I was saying, as much as Conor Khabib was announced, everyone was talking about Nate at the end of it. And the reason being is because he was there. He's the one that walked out. He's the one that essentially made the scene. He's the one that made the scene. He's the one that was there. He's the one. I'm gonna say, I feel like a fucking broken record, but either way, he comes out. He says he's not fighting. He tweets, "I'm not fighting on. Fuck the UFC. I'm not fighting on that card." Dustin Poirier comes back. Yeah, I'm not fighting that card either. Fuck the UFC. So he's making noise. He's making noise. He's making waves. He's got to do what he's got to do. I mean, that's who he is. That's what they are. The Diaz brothers. That's what they do. They care, but they don't care. They're gangsters. Someone made a good analogy. I think it was TJ Dillashaw. It's like whenever they do that, it's like, oh my God. It's like, do you see that kid talk back to his dad? Oh shit. He's gonna get his ass beat. That's what the Diaz brothers are. They're in the embodiment of that gangster bad kid that when you were little, you're like, I can't believe you just got away with saying that. Are you serious? He's just that. They're just that guy. Those guys, and he comes out and they're like, "Who do you have in the Conor Khabib matchup?" He's like, "Fuck those guys. I beat one of them and I slapped the shit out of the other." And to be fair, he did slap Khabib in a brawl, so it wasn't like a fight. And then yeah, technically he did beat Conor. However, Khabib waxed the floor with him. So, yeah, man. Wait, did he? No. Yeah. But anyway, so as much as, and that's another thing about the Nate fight. I'm glad Nate's back, but they're fucking up, man. They're not giving him not him enough attention, but even Conor. They're giving Conor attention, but it's lackluster to me. And it's in October, so to be like, it's not like we have a lot of time. It's not like we have a lot of time. Okay. So going over what else we got. Not much else in the news. Like I said, the Volkov. Oh, if you guys haven't seen it, there's a funny video out right now on Instagram of Darren Till and Mike Perry talking, and they're right outside. And it was the moment where Mike Perry asks Darren Till if he wants to spar. Darren Till goes, "Yeah, man, I'd like to spar," because, he's got the heavy Liverpool accent, the Scouse accent. And then Mike Perry goes in to say, "Yeah, I've got my little gloves, but I don't know how you feel, because I know you spar different." He goes, "Oh, you said spar. I thought you meant spa." And it's just, once again, you have to watch it, because they're in that. It's just that moment of, it's just that moment of that or that Scouse accent and the American accent, and just, it's hilarious. George St. Pierre, uninterested in Anderson Silva fight right now. I'm uninterested in Anderson Silva fight right now. So George not saying what everyone else, George saying what everyone else is thinking. All right. Then we had the return of Greg Hardy last night on UFC or the Dana White Contender Series. He beat the shit out of the guy. I don't know why they keep putting him on there. They just need to put him in the UFC, honestly, because no one wants to see him win. Like, that's not why we're watching this. And all you're doing is feeding him people to watch a guy that allegedly beat his girlfriend or his ex-girlfriend continuously beat more people. I don't know if Dana White or the UFC understands this. We're not in here to watch him win. We're in here to watch him get what he deserves. So quit feeding him fucking guys you found at the bar right next door. Put him in there with a Chase Sherman. Put him in there with a Walt Harris. Put him in there with somebody. All right, I'm going to go to the heavyweight, right? Heavyweight's not stat, but at the same time, we get it. Like, he doesn't need to keep on being. All right, hold on. Fighters, weight class, women, or no, not women's heavyweight. It'd be crazy. Gabby Garcia running the whole shit. All right. So, could put him in there with Junior Albini. Yeah. Look at that. There's a guy here, Adam Weizerick. Justin Willis. Put him in there with Justin Willis. Justin Willis is the man. Chase Sherman. Daniel Spitz. Yeah, you don't have to worry about Daniel Oleman name check. That guy. These are some names that aren't top 10. I mean, he's already in the heavyweight. He's already considered in the heavyweight. Luis Enrique, you can put him in there with him. Man, I don't know what they're doing. I really don't. I don't. And I mean, there was also guys on the Contender Series that would have given him a better fight. For example, what's this guy's name? Where'd he go? Yeah, Don Tail Mays, King Kong. He just won on the. Yeah, he just beat. Or no. Wait. Yeah, he just beat the Mitchell Steep guy, and he lost his first one to Alan Crowder, but he would have given him a better fight than this last guy that they gave Greg Hardy. Jeez, this guy just sat there. Greg Hardy rushed him and just started laying hands on him. I was like, oh, that's cool. I guess that's a fighter. It bothers me. Just give him something he deserves. He wants to be tested, then test him. Damn. Why are we sitting here? Why are we sitting here trying to baby a NFL player? Also, guy allegedly beat his ex-girlfriend. Why are we babying him? Oh my God. Jay Sherman said it perfectly. Why is there UFC? Why is there this like UFC protection over him? Oh, we want to make him a real contender. No one cares about that. All right. We watch Floyd Mayweather fights to watch him lose because he's a shit person. I mean, he's not to the. He wasn't. Greg Hardy wasn't to the same level of legal issues that Floyd had for domestic violence, but goddamn, it's about the same. To me, in my eyes, it's the same. You're allegedly accused of beating a woman, and then on top of that, I mean, people that don't beat girls don't get accused of beating girls, right? You can be a shit person, but if you don't lay your hands on a girl, that's not what you're going to be accused of. typically people that do that are accused of it, right? And it's the same thing with Floyd. He's not the best person. He's one of the greatest boxers, but people don't pay that Floyd pay-per-view money to watch him just wreck house on people. That's why he's such a defensive boxer. Because everyone that goes against him wants to take his head off. That's fair. All right. Greg Hardy's no different. People don't want to watch him win. People don't like that. All right. You're just giving a guy that was allegedly accused of domestic violence or whatever he was accused of specifically. You're just giving him chances to get better at it. I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna pull it up because it was a really great tweet. And then we're gonna get into the fights, and then I'll break down the fights. You see, 227 guys. It was good. It was good. Good time. Good time. I wouldn't say the whole card was perfect, or I wouldn't say the whole card was entertaining. A lot of decisions, but the main and co-main event was definitely worth watching. Definitely worth watching. I mean, you kind of have to watch the co-main event twice. All right. Yeah, he just got another KO. I don't think they get contracts, right? On the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. He already has one, and it's in a. Okay, so he's 2-0. Okay, cool. In 17 seconds. Yeah. Here's the description. Hardy swarmed Gordon early and landed with heavy punches until a right on the temple put Gordon on the mat. Oh my God, that sounds so crazy. No, and he goes out there and he mean mugs the camera and stuff. Dude, quit trying to look scary. It doesn't help your marketing. It makes you look more like you beat women. Jeez. All right. Yeah. Okay, so then there was like the other three guys got contracts, but he's already got a contract, so they're just gonna keep putting him in there so I can watch him every Tuesday. So watching this guy just get better and better. I don't want to see that. Just go away. I don't care about it. Here we go. And Derek Lewis. Brett Okamoto tweets, UFC close to finalizing Derek Lewis versus Alexander Volkov on August 6th in Las Vegas. Per Dana White, it will serve as the co-main event to the Conor Khabib fight. And Derek Lewis comments back, tweets back, I'm not fighting on that fucking card. Fuck the NFL. Great. All right, where is it? Chase Sherman. At UFC, y'all might as well have put at Greg Hardy's ex in there. Let him fight a real fighter. Get him off the UFC protection program. Boom. I agree. I fucking agree. All right, so let's get into the fights because that's what y'all are here for. I guess, I don't know. Or you guys are here for other reasons because I got a pretty voice. All right, so UFC 227. We had a bunch of decisions, which I don't hate because there were a couple good decisions. Marlon Vera, that was one of the greater wins that I saw. He had a nice body shot on the guy that he went against. Just a beautiful to the solar plexus shot. Holy shit, it was great. Fucking dropped him. What was the fight that I wanted to make? Was it the Alex Perez? Hold on, I'll look it up. There was one fight that I wanted to make a comment because someone was playing a lot of. Oh, okay. So Matt Sales. That performance, Matt Sales was great. So he went against Shaman Moraes, he lost, however, nothing to take away from Matt Sales. But let me tell you, the pressure that guy put on a hard hitting Shaman Moraes was beautiful. He shoulder rolled like a pro, like a boxer. I don't want to say pro boxer, but he shoulder rolled like a boxer. Able to roll off some of the harder hitting shots. Kept the pressure forward. Kept Shaman Moraes on the back foot. Took a lot of that heat off of anything he threw, because Shaman, he throws a lot like Barbosa does. Heavy, combo influenced, and fast. Things that are intimidating when they get thrown at you. But if you can just stifle the punches, and you can stifle and really put the pressure on hard hitters, it kind of just takes away from their whole game. And my philosophy in that is this: you can teach someone to be a pressure fighter and then later on teach them how to counter. But if you just go out there as a counter fighter, you end up waiting. You end up reacting off of another person. When you're fighting, my reaction should be based off of your reaction to me. It shouldn't be based off of you. That's why Lyoto Machida, if you don't do anything, it's a very boring fight. And he has to gauge a rhythm. That's why Anderson Silva, very boring fights with a lot of the guys that didn't engage with him, but that's the way to win. Because if you do, you start to give them tells and you start to give them reads, and that just amplifies their game. Dominic Cruz is another big example. He uses more footwork, but it's the same idea. If I pressure you and I make you react off of my pressure, and I slip your punches and I roll off and I defend your takedowns, the constant retreating and the constant having to stop, throw a shot, stop, go for a takedown, stop, that's draining. And then on top of that, the shots that I throw at you, maybe jabs, shots to the body, the little tiny things to essentially piece you up. And that's why Diaz brothers have such a good, they have an incredible cardio pace that they can put on the person. And that's what Matt Sales did. He just put on an amazing pace on Moraes, except he coupled it with great head movement, rolling, not taking damage, and then returning it. Whereas the Diaz brothers, they just take damage and return it. But there's, as much as they shoulder roll, they have a lot of scar tissue for a reason. If you use the footwork and you pressure forward as well as countering, it's a hard night for that person, for the person going against you. As much as Shaman Rice won that fight, that performance by Matt Sales was amazing. All right. So then the other big thing that I could take away from that card was Kevin Holland versus Thiago Santos. It's I preach this like crazy. If you're in an MMA fight, it's not a jiu-jitsu match. And Kevin Holland was on his back playing guard. He was doing a lot of work off the ground, like off his back though, not in the way of being able to stand up. He had enough, and it was one of those things. He had the space to stand up and he had the space to move, but he did none of it. He sat there. He tried to play jiu-jitsu, tried to wrap Thiago into submissions, but didn't do anything after him, but just sat there and took punches. Took heavy, heavy punches on the ground. This isn't jiu-jitsu. You can't treat MMA like a jiu-jitsu match. And I know you can might get slack for this or whatever. Most jiu-jitsu schools don't consider MMA. They don't at all. They can tell you, oh, this is great for self-defense, but honestly, not really. A lot of things that they teach you, they shy away from takedowns, pulling guard. It's very competition-based. That type of jiu-jitsu does not work in a fight. That type of jiu-jitsu will get your face punched in a fight. When you train jiu-jitsu, it has to be with a purpose. It can't be sitting there and playing guard. Can't be sitting there and playing bottom like you can get away with when you train. Gotta put the pressure. Gotta keep the pace. And keeping the pace is not off your back. Keeping the pace is getting up to your feet, getting the fuck off of you. And if you want to reshoot and take them down, go for it. But this is a fight. It's not time to play. Let's lay on our back and roll it out for the rest of the time. Anytime someone's punching you in the face, you have to have more urgency. Thiago Santos won the fight, right? It's more of just the veteran experience. He's in there. He's just it, and it wasn't an easy fight for Thiago. It was a fight that had him go. I mean, he was working, but he wasn't having a stand-up battle, so it was a little bit frustrating for him. But I mean, you're still letting a guy that big tee off on you on top. So it wasn't like Kevin Holland was on the bottom and working hard and all these different things, or wasn't sweeping him getting on top. It was more Thiago Santos just on top, trying to rain down punches. All right. So other than that, Renato Moicano versus Cub Swanson. Poor Cub ate that jab, sat right down, and then his kryptonite, man. When he's hurt, if you go for that submission, more often than not, you're gonna get it. And Renato Moicano is not that guy to get that hurt sense, right? He got hurt, or he hurt Cub with a jab. As soon as Cub sat down, Renato jumped on his back and submitted him. Picture or textbook. The only fight that I did not get right was the Polyana Viana versus JJ Aldrich. JJ just did a better job. Polyana, she could have done more if she added more punches to her combinations. She probably would have sat Viana down. But Polyana's stand up, backing up with her head straight up, not a good look. Once again, couldn't get her or couldn't do work on the ground with her. Right? If you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner, takedowns, 20%, she got like a takedown, right? If you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner, you have to get the person down. And you can't do that with just jiu-jitsu. You have to work on that wrestling. That Mackenzie Dern fight is the perfect, not the Amanda Cooper one, the one before, is the perfect example. And until jiu-jitsu practitioners, especially Brazilians, start to recognize that wrestling is the key, they're gonna have a hard time. All right. So let's get into the co-main event. Not necessarily controversy on the co-main event in the way of like, because everyone that rewatches it tends to side with the judge's decision. I don't not side with the judge's decision. I don't side with them in the sense of like it was that clear. I do agree it was a split decision. And I guess, yes, takedown. I don't know. I'm on the fence with this. If you have takedowns the way that Henry Cejudo took people down in control time, I'm going to try to say this without trying to take away from what Henry did, because essentially he did a really good job. So let me frame this the best way. First round, DJ did an amazing job. He took the legs, or he kicked the leg of Henry Cejudo in the calf, and it caused him to have a nerve. Caused him to have a nerve problem. Ended up rolling his ankle. I think it shuts down the nerve, and then you just, since it shuts down the nerve, you just roll your ankle because of it. And he was on wobbly legs in that first round, and it was like, oh shit, this might be over quicker than the first one. And then DJ landed this head kick that I was like, oh shit, this is really going like the first one. Granted, Henry Cejudo got his legs underneath him. He figured it out. Second round, he comes out. He starts doing a little bit more work. He fights in southpaw. It helps him out a little bit. DJ's not as DJ as we're used to. He's kind of gun shy in this fight for some reason. So Henry Cejudo starts doing really, really well. Starts getting his range. Oh, excuse me. Oh. He starts finding his range. He eventually, and once again, I think that round was more DJ, just leg kicks and stuff, and not really. Once again, it's not a very action-packed flyweight fight. Not the best flyweight fight that I've seen. I think the Sergio Pettis versus Joseph Benavidez fight was fucking great. That was exciting. So this fight, they keep going. third round starts to go towards Henry Cejudo. So he starts landing these takedowns. DJ starts Granby rolling out of him. Tony Ferguson style is working. And then Henry Cejudo does it. He lands the inside trip, which I said before this fight, if Henry wants to win this, he can't single double leg DJ. He has to Olympic wrestle Demetrius. He has to take him to areas that he hasn't seen, just like Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott put him in funky submissions that DJ doesn't practice. So it stifles DJ's movement and it stops him. DJ gets a lot of points because he moves a fuck ton, right? He picks you. He just constantly touching you, constantly making points, constantly doing something. If you're on the ground, he's constantly moving around you. He's constantly hitting you. He's constantly doing something. He's hitting you with knees, elbows, whatever. So when we see DJ on his back, stuck like a mouse in a mousetrap, and that's essentially what Henry did. If you wanted to call it, you could call it a mousetrap. He literally just grabbed Demetrius and was like, stop, and like held him, and he grabbed him, and he got control, and he stifled DJ from doing anything. So this is where the arguments in my mind differ. People are going, yes, DJ was stopped by Henry in his tracks and was held down. That means something. That's a good look. He wasn't able to do anything. And if you look at the control time, yes, it showed. In the control time, Henry, takedowns. Why is there 50% takedown percentage? It's weird. Yes. Round by round, the control time favored Henry Cejudo. I don't disagree. I think the control makes a lot of sense. He was there for like 2 minutes on the ground holding DJ in the third, fourth round. My issue with it, though, is I'm gonna see if I can pull this up. If I can't, then never mind. But I'm gonna see if I can pull this up because there's another person that's got great control time. But if you look at the significant strike numbers, so Henry got 3 takedowns on Demetrius. Demetrius got 1 takedown on him. Strikes, Demetrius is 81 strikes to Henry's 51. And Henry got 2 passes. All right. So can I look at the results of this? Can I look at the numbers? How do I look at the fight metrics? I hate this. All right. So anyway. Oh, here we go. All right. So the fight metrics on this. All. All right. So control 4 minutes and 16 seconds of the whole fight. He had control. DJ only had 37 seconds. DJ scored 110 total strikes to Henry Cejudo's 17. Demetrius Johnson's 68 significant strikes to Henry Cejudo's 47. Henry scored 5 takedowns, and DJ went for 2. All right. Now, that's great numbers. Control time's fantastic. Awesome. I'm on board, guys. I'm totally on board with you. However, when you look at a guy like Khabib Nurmagomedov, who, when he fought, let's say we're going to do the Edson Barboza fight, who Edson is a striker and a fast one on his feet. And you look at that fight and you look at the statistics. Khabib's control time, 10 minutes and 32 seconds to Edson Barboza's 0. Kind of similar. All right, give or take 5 more minutes of control. This is where the issue is for me. Edson Barboza still landed 25 strikes, and then he had a significant strikes of 25. Khabib had 150 total strikes and 89 significant ones. 4 takedowns. That's control. To me, When your significant strikes and your control time do not match, that means jack shit to me. That means you're holding them down. That literally is what that means to me. You're just holding them there. If your strikes are way more than your opponent's and your control time is heavier, you're doing effective ground strikes. You're doing effective striking on the ground, and also no submission attempts. So it's not like, so to me, what you are telling me is you held him on the ground for 4 minutes. Fucking cool. Great. That is in itself an achievement to hold Demetrius down for 4 minutes in a total fight. I don't disagree. Is it worth winning the fucking belt for after he clearly has his striking percentage was higher, his significant and total strikes? Are we in a fight or in a wrestling match? And I know people are like, well, technically in wrestling, that's a takedown, even if he ground beat. Fucking great, but we're not wrestling. We hear the argument always on the opposite end. Well, this isn't a jiu-jitsu match. Well, this isn't a wrestling match. Well, this isn't boxing. Why don't leg kicks get caught more? This isn't Muay Thai. It's a fight. No, at the end of the day, it's a fucking fight. So treat it as so. Holding someone down in a fight isn't winning. Just being an asshole. Doesn't I mean that's the arguments that, you know, even if you watch the Diaz fights, right? Even in those, they get beat up on the ground. In what that means to me, and I've been in this position, I've been on top in a training sense, helping a black belt train for a fight. He put us in bad positions and gave us gloves and was like, hit us or hit me if you get the chance, especially in full mount. I got the full mount. I was like, oh man, this is not a good training thing. I'm gonna punch him right in the fucking nose. I go to sit up to throw a strike, and obviously he's a black belt. And at the time, I was a young blue belt, and he hip bumped and moved and got his position. I'm just like based out, holding my base, just so I don't lose the position that I worked so fucking hard to get to. And he's moving and moving and moving. Finally gets the half guard, whatever. The only punches I could even fathom of throwing were little fucking rabbit punches. Do they do damage? Fuck no. Do I consider I won that roll session? No. I consider what that was I got into a good position. I need to hold the fucking position. Otherwise, he was going to get out. And then I was fucked. I believe what Henry Cejudo did was, as much as it was impressive, it wasn't enough to win the fucking belt. To me, you could have just given it a draw. Just given that fight, oh, fucking whatever. Because that's how I felt after it. That's how I felt during it. And when people are arguing that, wow, I can't believe, wow, that fucking performance by Henry. And then people will go back and watch it. Man, that fight by Henry. Gotta tell you, he did control the fight. What does that mean? That he held him down? I watched Luke Thomas's show, and the headline for his thing is he didn't lay and pray on Demetrius. And part of that is kind of true. I don't agree with his assessment that Henry actually did work to win. You're right. He didn't lay and pray on Demetrius. He laid on Demetrius. And essentially, yeah, he prayed that Demetrius wouldn't get up, but Demetrius wasn't doing work off the bottom. He wasn't trying to get up. If he did, as much as I guess he felt the resistance, and that's why he was just kind of waiting for Henry to either transition to a position or strike like you're supposed to and trying to land ground and pound so there would be space for Demetrius to get up. But the reason why it didn't get up and there was so much control is because Henry wasn't doing anything, and neither was Demetrius. They were hugging each other. Demetrius deserves an immediate rematch, I think. I think this fight just needs to be redone. I think whatever the fuck happened, that was You're asking judges to split hairs on who won that fight. You're having people in the UFC community or in the MMA community like, you know, on two fences, but essentially arguing over fucking nothing because it's not a dominant performance. It's not a good performance by either guys. And for people to argue that what Henry Cejudo did was effective grappling, fucking wrong. It's not effective grappling. Khabib, Kevin Lee has effective grappling. All right, flyweight division, who has effective grappling? Demetrius Johnson has effective. Oh, wait. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna prove my point even more with the person I'm talking about, with Henry Cejudo. Watch this. Fucking, I'll show you guys. I'll show you all. All right, let's go. Pettis. Remember that fight when he went against Sergio Pettis and he took him down and he showed him what was good? Give me the stats. Right? Henry Cejudo, control time, 9 minutes and 35 seconds. Sergio Pettis's strikes, 38 of 112, 25 significant ones. Right? Oh, wow. He threw 112 strikes. He landed 38 of them. That's pretty good for Sergio. Henry Cejudo, 85 of 148 total strikes, 36 significant strikes, and 3 takedowns. Henry Cejudo, in that fight, I consider effective grappling. That is my argument for this. Right? That's what I call Henry Cejudo using effective grappling. Those numbers match up. He beat up Sergio Pettis on the bottom. What we got in the fight, and according to those numbers, what it looks like is we got a fight where Henry Cejudo did not want to stand up with Demetrius Johnson and did everything in his power to just hold him down, to make sure that Demetrius didn't want to fight. That's not effective for me. That just seems like you're not doing anything. And you definitely don't deserve the belt for it. Anyway, whatever. Definitely congrats to Henry. I think is great for the division. It opens up everything for the division. I just think the argument of how effective Henry Cejudo's ground game is a fucking ridiculous argument because he has effective ground game, and that in comparison was not effective. My concern and my argument with it is less about the argument of, oh wow, Henry Cejudo did an amazing thing, he won, and congrats on that. This is a totally separate issue from it. What I'm more focused on is people trying to, justify that and do everything that they can to say, oh my God, what Henry Cejudo's ground game was ridiculous that night. We've seen what ridiculous ground game is, and it's not that. I don't want people to fool each other. And it's like, that's how you win a fight. That's not how you win a fight, guys. It's a bad example. That's literally laying and praying. Laying and praying is you taking someone down and then you not striking or landing as many strikes as your opponent. We're not even attempting them. That's fucking laying and praying. Complete control is being able to hold someone down, throw strikes, and feel confident in the fact that you can hold them there while you punch them in the face. All right. Either way, congrats for the Cejudo team. I'm excited for his next opponent or fight in general. Hopefully it's Demetrius Johnson. The way the UFC is going to do it, it's probably not going to be. He's talking about going up to 135 after he fought and fighting TJ. I think TJ fucking runs through him. That's a terrible idea. Henry Cejudo is 5'4". Also, the UFC and now, or the state of California released the weigh-in number, or the weigh-ins for the day of the fight. And holy shit, TJ weighed in at 147 pounds on the first day. I don't know if they're gonna put it up. I don't know if they put it up here. But yeah, it was crazy. TJ was way bigger. Cody was 141, I'm pretty sure. TJ was like 147 or something. 143 or I don't know. It was like something ridiculous. But yeah, even in that fight, Henry's not that big. Henry didn't go up that far. Yeah, and yeah, Demetrius weighed more than Henry when they stepped in that day. But yeah, man. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's not effective grappling in my mind, but let's move on. We'll get into the main event. In the main event. All right, guys. In the main event, we obviously had TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt 2. And what a beautiful thing that was in TJ's side. So TJ did exactly what I thought TJ was going to do. And he proved it. Rematches typically the champ, if they beat the person that won the first time, typically they win again the second time in a quicker fashion. Typically, obviously, in the co-main event, we didn't see that. So TJ comes out and he gets more in your face boxing heavy. More of Cody's game plan. Just really putting it toward, bringing it to him. Cody did exactly what I thought he was going to do. He started throwing kicks, but assumed abandoned the fuck out of that game plan. When I watch Cody kick and when I watch TJ kick, you watch two different fighters that you can see the love that TJ has for striking, and you can see the love that Cody has for punching. Specifically, he has a love for boxing. He has a love for getting in the pocket and throwing heat. He throws kicks because almost like my game plan says I have to throw kicks. I don't want to do it, but I guess we'll do it. He throws them, but once again, soon abandons it. He rushes TJ. After TJ throws a kick, TJ falls, gets up. Next thing you know, Cody's in his face trying to flurry him. TJ training with Vasily Lomachenko, and Vasily's, I don't know about his coach, but the guy that Vasily coach or works with. They both threw right hands. And in the first fight, I noted for a guy that boxes, Cody fucking keeps his hands in his pockets for some reason. After he's done throwing, when you throw a punch, and now that I have a camera, I can show you. When you throw a punch, typically you want that hand to come right back to your face, especially if I'm throwing hard punches. All these punches, I teach the kids. If one hand comes out, the other hand's by your face. The other hand leaves, the other hand's by your face. You don't ever leave home unprotected, right? When I leave, I lock my doors. These are my doors. I keep my hands up. If I leave, right, I've set the alarm, right? My hands are still up. When Cody throws, he throws with intention and heat. So he really torques his body into it. And in order to do that, he drops his hands by his shoulders or even towards his hips. So when he gets in that firefight, when there's both of them sitting there, and when you throw a knockout shot, you are also susceptible to be knocked out. So when Cody comes at TJ, right, they're coming straight at each other. As Cody throws his punches, instead of TJ throwing them right back and hitting three right hands, not saying that TJ still wouldn't have gotten the knockout, but he just minimized the damage. Because the difference between Cody's right hands, that they were going straight down the pipe. I mean, they were coming around, but they were, at the angle was non-existent. There was none. It was just a fucking train. TJ threw the same punch, except all he did was step out. So that way, when he threw the same punch, he still landed, right? The punch still lands, especially in a better place. But all the force that Cody, right? All the force that Cody throws gets minimized, All right, all the force on this side is now over here. He's missing it. He still maybe tags TJ a little bit, but not enough to do anything. Maybe enough to like hit his shoulder, and he's like, right. If Cody or if TJ was to stand there, TJ still would have done what he did. He just would have taken a lot more damage on his arm because, and one of those punches might have actually sneaked through. I mean, there's not much protection, right? If I just do this, there's not a lot of protection. But he would have at least had his hands there. He's the whole entire time he's still that 2 would have hit because Cody's hands come right back down to his pockets. After he dropped Cody, he throws 3 right hands in succession. The third one lands, drops Cody. Cody's on wobbly legs, tries to get up. Same thing. Cody throws that big right hand. TJ ducks underneath it, kind of like clubs him, but then knocks him back down. And now he's way on wobbly legs. And then just TJ with the right hands. All the way up to the fence. And then switch to a knee. And then more right hands. Until Herb Dean stopped it. So my takeaway from this fight was, goddamn, that cardio of TJ Dillashaw. For those that don't know, to beat someone up, it takes way more energy. Taking a beating, it sucks. It doesn't feel good, but energy-wise, not as bad. All right. To finish someone, and that's a real big difference. TJ is a finisher. Cody has one-punch knockout power, but not necessarily makes him a great finisher. The reason why I consider TJ Dillashaw a greater finisher than Cody Garbrandt is this reason. He doesn't care where the person goes. When you watch Cody fight Dominic Cruz, he knocks him down, but he doesn't follow up. He allows him to hit the ground, and he allows him to recover. He's afraid of going to the ground and then something happening. I don't know if his wrestling or jiu-jitsu is not up to par or something, but he doesn't engage on the ground after the knockdown occurs. He doesn't chase the finish. As soon as there's blood in the water, TJ is on you. He starts to stalk. He starts picking his shots, and each shot is going to put you out. When you watch this fight, TJ does not give up. He throws right hand, and just keeps going. Conditioning off point or on point, but that means there's no stop to the storm. The storm keeps going and going. And then eventually the knees, the hands, he doesn't stop until the ref gets in the middle. That's a big difference. A lot of the guys you see, they hit someone and then they immediately go for a submission. And they either burn their arms out and then the person, recovers and they get back up. If you want to end a fight and you got someone hurt, get on top. Jose Aldo did this to Jeremy Stevens. Get on top. Dustin Poirier did this, and I talked about it a little bit. And just punch them. Punch them until the ref gets in front of you and says stop. It might take a while. It might require you to move around, avoid getting hit back, avoid, putting yourself in a compromising position. But in order to finish the fight, you have to keep laying leather to face. You have to keep on hitting them to the point where they cannot intelligently defend themselves. But every time that Cody knocked Dom down to the ground, Dom could intelligently defend himself because Cody was not there. And this is and the same thing with TJ in the first fight. Right? Obviously the bell was there, but Cody's not good at finishing the fight on the ground. He gets a little wild. He doesn't pick his shots, and TJ got back to his feet in the first fight. And this fight, they both hit each other. He had TJ a little wobbled, but even then, it's something about the ability to just stay on your opponent and finish and make sure that the strikes land where they need to land. And so you have now arguably the best UFC bantamweight champion of all time, TJ Dillashaw. I arguably think that TJ Dillashaw's stylistically, is the best fighter in the UFC. Whoa, no one go crazy. No, stylistically, I think he is the best fighter in the UFC. I think he has power in both hands, both feet, everywhere. He's dynamic, fast, counter striker, and pressure fighter. He's got amazing wrestling if he needs to, and the transitions to wrestling to striking for him are seamless. He is smart, has game plans, and has the ability to do everything because of his size. When you get to the heavier weight classes, a lot of the size stops a lot of those guys from being able to do a lot, besides John Jones. But size does play a factor at some point. Even Gustafsson. But size does play a factor at some point because, Demetrius Johnson can lift someone over his head and put them in an armbar, but I'd like to see Stipe do that to DC or DC do that to Stipe. It would be very hard. So with the argument of him and Henry Cejudo being next, TJ was talking about dropping down to 125. He says it would be super easy. And I don't know his weight cutting. I don't know his personal, I don't know how comfortable he feels, but if he thinks he can do it, I wouldn't mind seeing that. He would go and grab another belt. But if I was him, I'd just let Henry Cejudo come up, honestly. I wouldn't care. I'm more on the DJ school of this. Like, I would not care about a second belt. It's not. I guess you get paid more, whatever. But as much as you market yourself right, you don't need 2 belts. And if anything, I feel like, why don't I just get settled in this first, win a couple matches, defend my belt a couple times, and then go do it? At least with that fight, at least with doing that, you can at least settle into that championship contract. It's not a win or lose. If you win it, then if TJ wins, right, and let's say he fights the next person in the line, whoever it might be. In his case, it might work out because he was talking about Dom is the only person I want to see go against TJ right now. However, he makes a good point. Dom hasn't fought in a minute, and I think Dominic Cruz versus Marlon Moraes would be a great fight for Dominic's return. And during that time, if TJ wanted to get the super fight, then I guess it makes sense. But the problem is, if TJ loses that, then it's a lose-lose situation. But if TJ wins, it's win-win. But if you win against a contender, especially if you're a champion, typically there's an immediate rematch, especially if you're a dominant champion. So, but thanks to these super fights, it's a double-edged sword. They kind of fuck both of each other. I mean, the idea of both of them kind of fuck each other up. So if there wasn't this double champ thing, then there would be more immediate title matches. But if there isn't, since there is, there's less of them. I don't know. All right. Well, let's see. We got a break from fights for 2 weeks, which I'm excited about. But I will come back next week and we'll talk more news. Hopefully some more stuff gets announced and some other cool stuff. Also Monconton. What the fuck is that? That's in Canada. So yeah, the Anthony Smith. Okay. So I'll be back next week and we'll talk more about whatever's going on in the UFC and MMA. Oh, before we go, Bellator Grand Prix announcements. So Grand Prix has finally announced its matchups. We've got Paul Daly. This is the first round matchup. So we got Paul Daly versus Michael Venom Page, first rounder. And then we have Douglas Lima versus Andrei Korshkov, first rounder. And then John Fitch versus Rory McDonald. That's a first rounder as well. That'll take place after Rory versus Musasi. I don't know why he's in that. I think that should be an alternate fight, and that should be replaced with Lorenz Larkin versus someone or whoever. Then you have Ed Ruth versus Neiman Gracie, and those are your welterweight Grand Prix. It's gonna be streamed exclusively on DAZN. 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 Yeah. So get ready for that. I'm excited. Saturday, September 29th is the first one. That's Douglas versus Andre. Good fight. Good fight. And Lorenz Larkin versus Yaroslav Omsov. Omsov is the alternate bout. All right. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. It'll be available on YouTube, streaming live once again. So hopefully next week you guys will know. It'll be typically 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock East Coast time. So if you're not available for that, you can always you can either rewatch it on YouTube or you can, stream on, or you can download the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, as well as find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at Southern Scrap Nation. Check out our website. We've got shirts and merchandise coming out or already out, so you can purchase, as well as a free chance to win a bunch of it. Make sure to like our pages, and I appreciate you guys. Until next week, we'll do another Sips and Slips, and I've been your host, Daniel Jonas, as always, and hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday and rest of your week. Until then, stay safe, guys.